Okay, so this is going to be a description about the Gen Ed core, and I'm going to just spend some time to go through each category, explain some things, because the general education core can be kind of confusing, especially for newcomers. So the major is a little bit more cut and dry about take this is what you need. But what I did here is I put together a little bit of information about each category, and next to the name of the category, I put the more popular choices, the ones that are offered the most. This is not me telling you what to take, but it's just letting you know what most students take to fulfill certain categories. As always, whenever you're searching for Gen Ed, as I've talked about in the past and I'll show videos of, is you can search Gen Ed courses by attribute. So each of these categories are considered an attribute whenever you look for searching classes in the registration system. So it can get a little confusing, so just bear with me, and I'm going to try and explain this as easily as possible. Okay, so everyone has to do the Gen Ed. Everyone has the core. So to get a degree from UIndy, you have a major and the core, and you need at least 120 credit hours. Now, if you add in the Gen Ed and the major, you don't equal 120 credits. That's why there's room for electives, minors, some people double major. Sometimes you just like to take some elective classes. But for the most part, every semester you're going to want to have a big chunk of Gen Ed requirements and major requirements on your schedule. Okay, so the first one is new student experience. You are in INTD 101 if you are not in a major specific NSE, but there's also other ones. So business does Business 100, kinesiology majors do KINS 106, engineering has Engineering 185, art has Art 105. But for the most part, most people are going to be in INTD 101. If you don't do this NSC requirement, you don't fulfill it, or you don't pass it, you will be required to complete an additional elective course from a distribution or competency area of the Gen Ed core, meaning you have to take an extra Gen Ed class. Okay, then let's go to first year seminar. Hopefully a lot of the freshmen are in first year seminar this fall. If not, you definitely need to take it during semester 2. First year seminar also fulfills another Gen Ed category, and 110 does literature, 120 is history, 130 is natural science, 140 social science, 150 is religion, and so on. Those are the ones that are the most popular. Is 110 that would fulfill literature, which is the next one we're going to talk about. If you don't do an FYS, you have to actually do another writing and speaking across the curriculum course prior to graduation. So we'll talk about that category at the end, but basically, if you haven't done an FYS, you need to do one next semester, semester 2. If you are past freshman year, you can no longer take an FYS. It's only available in that freshman year. Next category is literature. So here the most popular choices: English 102, FYS 110, and then English 218. So this class, most people end up taking FYS 110, but if not, they'll do English 102. English 102 is mostly offered during semester 2. So English 101 is typically taught by the fall, and then 102 is in the spring. The reason is a lot of the times it's the same instructors. And so if you didn't take an FYS 110 and you're a freshman, then you need to probably take English 102 the second semester. Next is history. History, all these classes are pretty much taught in the same style. It's definitely going to be lecture and reading and notes. It is what you would think of as a traditional college course, but it's either going to be world history or U.S. history, and it's divided by dates. So 201 and 22 are the world history dates, and then 217 and 218 are the U.S. history. Now, I will say, for whatever reason, UIndy offers the world history classes 201 and 202 a lot more often and during the same semesters than the U.S. history. And so that's something to think about is if you're wanting to do U.S. history, you need to try and take it when you see it available. If not, everyone pretty much just does world history at this point. Next one is natural sciences. So a lot of you will probably do this in one of your majors. So if you're an exercise science major, for example, you do Bio 104. If you are a biology major, a chemistry major, environmental science, physics, all these science classes, science majors, you're already going to do one in your Gen Ed. For those that don't, there's no specific one, just because I didn't want to put a recommendation, because there are a lot of options, and most of our athletes end up taking one in their major. So that one, you'll just search the attribute for natural sciences. or take FYS 130 if you haven't taken FYS yet. The next one comes with quite a bit of choices called social sciences. So this is probably one of the most popular gen ed categories, and each student athlete must complete one of these social science categories just like the other ones. The main ones are Social 101 and 103. So Social 101 is principles of sociology. 103 is issues in society. So that one's going to be more of a discussion. And then Anthropology 100 is cultural anthropology. So you're going to learn how different cultures around the world address different issues. And then Political Science 101 is your intro to American national government. So that is going to be your fundamental knowledge about how the United States operates from a government perspective. Another one is religion. So every student at UIndy also has to take a religion course. The main ones are Religion 100, 110, 200, and 210. Now, there are a lot of different religion classes, so I want you to make sure you take one that you're interested in. Okay, so 100 is 110. The 110 is world religions. 200 and 210 are New and Old Testament. So those are just some of the ones that are offered the most and seem to be taken the most by UIndy students. Philosophy and ethics. So philosophy is very difficult to take your freshman and sophomore year as far as scheduling. For whatever reason, it fills up very quickly. So you might not do this right away. Some of you will do it in your major. So for example, I put the most popular choices, Philosophy 101 and 110. Those are by far the ones that are taken the most. Philosophy 201 is ethics. And so business majors are actually required to take ethics. And Education 300, education majors will take that. So that would fulfill your philosophy. But if not, don't be surprised if when you try to sign up for 101 or 110, you're not taking it your freshman year. It is a 100 level class, so you really can take it at any point. It's just that it fills up rather quickly. The next two are the ones that I get asked about a lot, and is the fine arts requirements. So there's two fine arts requirements. So I want to break this down. I want you to pay attention to this for me. One class has to be the theory, the theoretical. The other is the applied. Okay, so if you're in Art 110, Music 110, or Theater 110, the easiest way to look at that class is to know first that you're not actually doing, so it's not the applied part, it's theoretical. So it is kind of a mix of a lecture and a history class. Art 110, Music 110, Theater 110, pretty much all appreciation courses. So you're going to learn kind of the behind the scenes of each of those subjects. Okay, and then Fine Arts Applied is, yes, you actually will do an art or a music or some type of thing that's considered art. So that is not something you have to be an expert in. Keep in mind, every student has to do this. Now, when you're signing up for an art class, there's a lot of art classes, and some are restricted, saying that you have to be an art major, you have to be a music major, a theater major. The reason is those ones are for students that are actually majoring in that, and the expectation is that they're going to be a little more advanced. And so to make it fair, there's just as many sections available for non-art majors and non-music, non-theater. And those are the ones you can do. So whenever you're looking for a class, you'll do restriction. So if you do FYS 172, this is kind of a quadruple counter because it fulfills two categories and the FYS. So I guess that's three, but it fulfills a lot. So FYS 172, if you haven't taken that yet, you haven't taken an FYS, you could try that. The English 270 is creative writing. That is a 3-credit class, and so sometimes that puts people away from taking that. But it is most of these art classes are between 0.5 and 2 credits. And so just keep in mind the theoretical means you're not actually doing the art. The applied means you are. And keep in mind also you have to do both. Next one's global awareness. So the purpose of global awareness is really to expose students to academic topics in other cultures. And so the different ones here are CRIM 120, IBIZ 201, and then IREL 100 and 101. 100 is world geography. 101 is international relations. CRIM 120 is not really global, but it does do a good job of teaching you about kind of criminal justice as the topic in society. International Business 201, that's a good class. And this is something that everyone has to do besides the international student athletes. So if you're an international student athlete, this one you do not have to do. Now, there are some double counting classes for global awareness and for the next category, experiencing cultural differences. So what I will say here is Education 290, very popular choice. Religion 270 and 275. Ironic enough, do not fulfill the religion category, but you can take those and account them for 2 categories if you're required to do it. And then FYS 182 is another triple counting requirement. So if you haven't taken FYS and you can take 182, then you could fulfill both of those. All right, so experiencing cultural differences, that is very difficult to schedule. It's not necessarily the difficulty level of the class. It's just that there's a lot less classes offered. A lot of the classes that are offered for this category are restricted to certain majors. So it does become challenging. So the Education 290, the religion classes, those are pretty popular, especially for upperclassmen. You probably won't take, if you didn't take the FYS, you will not take this Gen Ed probably till junior or senior year. Okay, so exercise science majors, we have quite a bit. You will be doing exercise science, we'll do KINS 356, and sport management majors, another popular major of our student athletes. You would do KINS 355 as part of your major requirements, and that will fulfill this category. All right, so once again, if you're an international student athlete, you are waived from having to do that. And so the biggest reason why is you are already experienced global awareness and experiencing cultural differences compared to domestic students. So you are not required to do that. You do not get credit. You can still take these classes. You're just not required to. So that's something to pay attention to. Then communication. Almost everyone is going to take the public speaking class, and most take it freshman and sophomore year and get it over with. Everyone's probably going to be nervous in there. It's not just you. If you are an education major, then you're probably going to take COM 201. I didn't put that on here, but COM 200. I think it actually is 201. So I apologize. I think that's a typo. 200 is a business professional communication course. Now that does satisfy it, but 201 is for education majors of what you would actually take. And that's just because it teaches you how to teach a class and be in front of a classroom versus just giving a speech. And then BADM 231 is business communications. That is different than COM 200. So business 231 is taught by the business faculty. And if you are a business major, you are required to do that class already. Wellness. So that is KINS 101. Okay, if you're an honors student, you might do KINS 104. But for almost everyone in here watching this, you will take KINS 101. Now, as of this fall, there's a couple of dance classes that are showing up as wellness. I'd be skeptical about that because I am looking into whether that's actually true because advisors were not notified. And no other sport classes are allowed to count as wellness, and including certain dance classes. So I'm skeptical that these ones showing up when you search the attribute wellness, I'd worry that they are whether they actually are wellness or not. But be safe, just do KINS 101. It's a 1-credit class. They're all taught pretty much by athletic coaches, and every student has to take one. Very light activity in that class. You will do some stuff out of an ebook, an e-textbook, so you will do a little bit of that. Modern language is totally up to your major. And once again, if you're an international student, if English was not your country's main language, then you are not required to do modern language. But every student, it's based on your major. And in DegreeWorks, you'll actually be able to see if it tells you that you have to do that or not. It'll say if you satisfied it from high school. So if you took 2 years of the same foreign language and you received a C- or higher, then that's all that's necessary. And you could also test out of a language requirement. The language exams are French, German, and Spanish. Those are the classes that we offer for those languages. Okay, so that is one thing that you actually have to do a placement exam for if you're required to take a class and to try and test out of that. So you go into My UIndy and you go into the student tab, and then at the top left, it'll say student quick links, and you can find placement exams and you'll click that button. Same thing with math. You will have to take the math placement exam. Most of you probably already did take this, and it tells you what class to test into. Now, it's important to note that you can do a lower math if you'd like. So some people test into Math 190, and which is Calculus 1, and they prefer to take Math 180, which is College Algebra and Trig. Completely fine. You cannot take a higher math, so you should still, if you haven't done it or you're going to retake it, try to do the best possible to do that. The Gen Ed math, be careful about Math 108. If you're a sport management major or another major that does not require a math class in the major, then you could do Math 108 and satisfy the Gen Ed. But other than that, if you're an exercise science or a business or engineering, anything like that, do not do Math 108, because then you have to retake the math placement exam because it's just its own class, not relevant to the other math classes. But technically, you'll see that it does fulfill the Gen Ed requirement. Critical thinking, English 101, very simple, but everyone has to take English 101. Some students have elected to take English 100 first, which is fine, but you still have to take English 101. 100 is kind of a refresh from high school, or if you're adjusting to the English language. International students do have to do English 101. Everyone has to do that at UIndy, and you have to earn a C or higher in this requirement, or it does not count, and you have to retake it. So if you get a C minus in English 101, you still have to retake it. So that's something you want to pay attention to. A lot of students come in with dual credit for English 101 or AP credit. So if you scored 3 or higher on the College Board AP English language and composition exam, then you will get credit for English 101. So you need to pay attention to that. And then I'm going to get into LPs. Okay, so lecture performance series. That is a very confusing topic, it seems, that everyone does have to do them. The only people that are exempt from doing LPs are the ones that actually transferred in more than 60 credits. And so most people do not do that. LP is basically you attend events that the campus sponsors other than the athletic competitions. You don't get LP credit for going to those. But this could be, like a career center could be putting on something, theater could be putting on something, a music concert, a guest speaker or a lecture, some type of event. If it says you can get LP credit for, then you can do that. Now you can see this by going into My UIndy and then go to student, and it's if you scroll to the bottom left of the screen under quick links, I believe there's a lecture and performance activities area, and it'll track your attendance. So you do need to sign in, so bring your ID to these things. Some will last 30 minutes, some might last 2 or 3 hours. So you just got to kind of pick and choose. Don't wait to the last minute. But here's how it works. You have to do 20 events, but it's really broken into 2 sections of 10 events, and you can earn 0.5 credits each 10. So if you do all 20 events, you will get 1 credit towards graduation. Now, the problem is if you don't do them, there is a punishment. So I mentioned at the beginning that everyone has to have 120 credits to graduate. Okay, well, if you don't do your LPs, that can go up. And so for each of those 10 events, it could go up 3 more credits on the denominator of 120 credits to graduate. What do I mean by that? I mean, if you've taken less than 10, then you need to have 126 credits to graduate. If you've done 11, but you haven't gotten to 20, then you need 123 credits to graduate. And you would get 0.5 if you did more than 10, but you wouldn't get the other 0.5 credit. Okay, so some of you might end up taking enough credits to reach the 123 or the 126, but I promise you the LP events, you have so much time to get them done that you could pick out ones that you can benefit from a long time. The Career Center would be a good one for you to think about. Guest speakers, just kind of expose yourself to other things, especially you're living here. So a lot of these are at night and you can go to them, then go to them. It's something to do and you'll appreciate the different perspectives of things. The other thing is spring term. Spring term is very confusing as well. Basically, freshmen and sophomores typically do it. It is at the end of the school year, so the Monday after graduation in May, and then through the end of May. So it's 3 weeks, Monday through Friday, for 3 hours a day. It seems like a lot, but it's a fun class. So basically, the purpose of spring term is to expose you to non-traditional lessons and classes. A lot of these will be based on movies or music or whatever things are going on in society, and it can be very interesting for you to enjoy. There are some study abroad opportunities. If you can't do a whole semester abroad because you're an athlete, for example, you could go on a trip. They change it every year to, they give you a couple of different options. You could go for a 3-week trip. Now, you have to obviously pay for that, for the travel and everything. But if you want to do that, the tuition of spring term, the first attempt, is free. You can do more than one spring term. So if you don't want to be here all summer and you want to do that, but you're only required to do one, and the first one's free. After that, you would have to pay for it. But if you don't do spring term, it's the same thing. There's a 3-credit penalty. So your requirement goes from 120 to 123. So if you don't do LP at all, and you don't do spring term, you need 129 credits to graduate instead of 120. So just make sure you do them. Okay, writing and speaking across the curriculum. This is one that you will do a lot of writing in probably. I know you're already thinking, I'm doing English 101, I'm doing English 102 or FYS 110, but this is a different requirement. So a lot of you will have this in your major. So what I want you to do is whenever you're going through degree works, look at attribute on certain one of these, and you'll notice some popular ones about what you're going to do. So a lot of your majors will have one of these in it. Business majors, off the top of my head, I know yours is BADM 332. Exercise science, I believe yours is KINS 410. Sport management, yours is KINS 201. So a lot of those ones. I think psychology, this Psych 400. So just kind of look through your degree works on that, or your curriculum guide, whatever you're doing. And then capstone. So every major is going to have a capstone, and this will be a class or an internship or just a project, whatever your major and your faculty require. That is your capstone. So that is a gen ed requirement as well, but it comes out of your major, and it's typically done your senior year. It could be the end of your junior year, something like that. If you are double majoring, you do have to do both capstones, because keep in mind they're class requirements for your major, but only one needs to actually go towards your gen ed, but you do have to take both if you're going to double major. Okay, so that's my my kind of explanation on the gen ed core. And I can't stress enough, when you're looking for gen eds, use the attribute feature in my UIndy whenever you're searching for classes, and then you can just search for the category.